In this moment, we are in live with the Miraflores Palace, seat of the government of Venezuela in its capital, Caracas, Venezuela, with the Russian Foreign Affairs Serguey Lavrorv is received for the Foreign Affairs, Yvan Gil. Let's hear it.
Sí. We have reviewed the position of both countries, and we share right now in the new geopolitics of the world. And let's remember that the Federation of Russia and Venezuela have shared all the principles of the United Nations, and we have a group. We have a group in the headquarters of the United Nations in defense of the interests of the United Nations, and with all the countries that integrated, and we have worked so together to coordinate the positions in all the countries and in all the forums in the defense of the countries of autodetermination. We have reviewed everything today, the bilateral agreements and the Commission. Let's remember that in the end of 2022, there was a commission, an intergovernmental commission, that it was celebrated here in PDVS, and more than 300 agreements were confirmed between those nations. And today, with Lavrov, we have made a review of these aspects, and we have committed ourselves to improve in all the subjects that I said before, especially in the energetic aspect that is very important, in the aspects in the commercial aspects, in the object for production of food, of agriculture in Venezuela, that have to do with the regulations to increase exportation, to increase the food exportation. We have seen the advances in the system of exchange, in the financial subjects, and we have created alternative to international companies, and we have centered our focus on, and with the target MIR that will allow tourists, Russian tourists, to consume in Venezuela under a direct system without passing through international levels. And this is very, very good, and we are going to work to enhance the relations between these two nations as Russia and Venezuela. Dear sirs, I'm here today to say the words of my colleague. Let's take into account the words of the President, and let's continue the agreements that we agreed and that we are making today through the mechanism of cooperation. And this includes the ones that are important with the Commission, and it was a Commission very important, and we have some documents to the development of the cooperation. We have agreed practical measures to widen our chains of commercial, of inversions, and taking into account the realities of today. We have projects in the exploration of oil, in medicines, in space, in technologies. So we are going to widen these subjects and in different levels. In the future, we are going to use these mechanisms that exist today in all the levels, in all intergovernmental levels. and we agreed to accelerate to implement the documents to change the cultural changes that will happen that there are in all citizens, and we're going to make changes in university as well. We have decided that we are going to double everything, and all the budgets is going to be. It'll be more jobs to academics next year. In agenda, there is the Center of Russia. There is also the participation of the athletes in the Alba sports, and there's also the participation of Venezuela, of the University of Los Pueblos, and the Center of, and it's also the preparation for pre-university. And we also talk about the situation is in the international scenario. Venezuela is one of the partners in the world, and is one of the best in cooperations in the community of the world. And it's regarding our international agenda and the bonds of sympathy our cooperation is proved in this crisis, and it is developed depending on the political conjecture that is right now. We cooperate in the international area, and we are engaged to the basic principles stated in the unity of the people and in all the world, in the internal subjects of the world. And we have made changes of protection of the people, of their destinies, and we have also tried to the sanctions that they have made, the sanctions that they have made to the Western. And as my colleague has said, this meeting is to work better in defense of the peace. And number two is the participants that are here with us. They are trying. It has an opening session in the framework of the Office of the United European Indy, and we're going to develop disabilities in other contexts. The group is going to continue its work and its declarations with, and its main objective is defense of the world is totally. And we also talked about that throughout many years of the creation of the United Nations. There were some proposals about the main objective, and there is the law of autodetermination, the autodetermination territorial law. And let's remember that in the United Nations we are talking about the crisis of the relation between states, where that every country should respect the principle of integrity, of territorial integrity of states and the governments that they represent in the people, in his totality, in his territory. In this situation, we argued the situation in Ukraine and what is happening in Ukraine, and we hope that the Kiev regime could represent the Crimean interests, and we know the demands of Crimea and by the Westerns. And they are doing intimidation. The Zelensky regime is is saying that it's going to distribute the Russian language. And we know that these demagogic statements are hidden and are repeated. And we see that was going to resolve the situation in Ukraine and other conflicts in the world throughout the principles of the United Nations Charter, of the sovereignty of all the peoples and all the states and the security of all people, and where no state can serve the security, and they cannot threaten other countries through unilateral measures that the Western apply. In this context, justice and international justice is a call for return the countries the Charter of the United Nations in all its totality. In this context, we have talked about the China position, China's stance in this country, and we talk about the discussions that we have had in Brazil, and it was very useful because it could accumulate ideas and in favor of, so that we can resolve all the problems, not in an isolated way, but so that we can enter the rules of the world and fix the problems. And this character grows. Let's develop other processes and platforms that are headed to protect other regions of the world. And also these processes, they have a very healthy character, and we value the role that Venezuela is playing, that supports completely our processes, and the framework of SELAC that promotes initiative. President Honduras, we are very grateful for this visit, and I told that I was visit Russia, and today we are going to continue our work in Caracas with other representatives. The rounds of talks from part of the international. The Maria Jimenez journalist. Hello, good afternoon to both authorities. I would like, the question is to the Lavrov. The Russian government has been a firm defender of the sovereignty of the countries of Latin America, and it has rejected the foreign inherency in Latin America. How do you value this current situation in countries like Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, and what play does it role in the integration of the nations? What are their initiatives to strengthen cooperation and the dialogue between Russia and Latin America? The countries that these countries are the countries that chose their guide on their own for the memory of the presidents, and they also choose the movements of independent movements. Tomorrow there's going to be the date of the beginning of the fight for independence, and we are saying friends of Venezuelans, and we say that the fight continues, and there are many tries to end the stance of the independence in the South and in other parts of the world. and we understand that very well. So that is important to have all that efforts, especially in the framework of peace and in other formats, to counter and to avoid blackmails and threats. With Venezuela, we have a very big agenda, and we have big projects, and we also have the operations that in practice have threatened the treaties and the changes in our economies that do not depend on blackmails from the Western countries. We also have these relations with Nicaragua, with Cuba, and we are going to continue. We are going to continue leading with the leaders of these countries, and in the economic aspect, it plays an important role because these years are within the principle of colonization, and USA that they are in the international community. All these principles in the market, in the free market, all these principles are in the free market and in the resettlement of innocence, and also other principles of property can punish those who are not useful for them and disobey, and those who disobey the rivals of Russia, and those who have a future as China. And remember, as the Latin American region was released of Doctrine Monroe, but recently we have heard of some announcements to return that doctrine, and Cuba, Nicaragua are not three, there are more that are protesting and fighting for their rights and for their own, and they are based on the principles, and they are not going to exclude, and they are going to defend their position, their equitable position through the order of the world, multipolar, democratic. We are going to develop a cooperation with all these countries, and we are going to help them. We are going to help them achieve their objective that condemn them. The first question is, United States, we're talking about of the sanction of Venezuela, but afterwards they decide that and how Russia can help Venezuela overpass those sanctions, and not going to, and the United States has declared to free Venezuela from sanctions with the condition of the participation, and afterward they recognized that there need to be consensus in this. And are you prepared to enhance the economic situation in the country? And do you know that a lot of that journalists have been cited to New York? What can be done to solve the situation? Precisely, In today's declaration, the measures have been unilateral and both from Venezuela and Russia, in principle to share a while ago in the United Nations. Recently, my advice in the human rights is that there are some measures that condemn all these coercive measures against the right to development, the right against development. In this framework, Venezuela has always will condemn the use of coercive measures or with any country. The United States have been applied a systematic policy of attack to our economy to make us suffer in spite of committing to facilitate the dialogue between Venezuelans, and what has happened is just the contrary. We have not seen any relax in the sanctions. What we have seen in the economics is the efforts of Venezuelans and his allies, as Russia Federation or other countries of Asia, of Africa, or Latin America. And we have found our space of economic exchanges, but we continue highlighting to the United States and Europe that all these sanctions must be free. Until there are no sanctions against Venezuela, we cannot talk about a situation of normality in relations with the country. So we are going to keep promoting this work of line. Today we saw the President Nicolas Maduro saying hi to the initiative of government of Colombia that is looking forward to several actors of Colombia so that they can advance in that uprising. That is going to be the only way. Will be the only way to have a dialogue, and that's what we are talking about. We are talking with the President Nicolas Maduro and with the alliance of Russia. I'm not going to talk much. I would only like to highlight that you all know that the United States can cannot fulfill with the promises, with their obligations, and they are just fooling. They were talking about that they were not talking to help NATO, and you know all the examples. That is why we help our Venezuelan friends in their stance and his economy that is affected by the nations, and they have to decide how are they going to work, how are they going to develop their states, and we are going to favor them in any way so that the economy of Venezuela will become an independent economy with no pressure from the United States or other countries of the Western. And I'm convinced that our experience is going to be useful. It's useful for a country because the number of sanctions against us is huge. And about a visit in New York, in our tour in New York, they free a visa, but it was with flagrant violations, and because we all of the delegation did not advise it, and the journalists don't have visa, and this was not explained. And I'm not surprised because as you can see, the approaches of the United States about the principles of the principle of free expression you can see that a lot of agencies, that a lot of social media are closed, have violated their rights, and it's a reality that is causing a lot of shame on us. And also, the agreements are not working. With the Organization of Security in Europe, in cooperation in Europe, we have these agreements, but if we see the situation in the whole world, this only confirms that the perception of the events is imposed by the Western propaganda to the citizens of other countries. Let's help them defend their rights. We don't know what the result would be. We don't know the result of the confrontation, but we are going to share the results of the tour and in the fight with you. Good afternoon, Foreign Minister. I would like to ask you first, you mentioned that you talked about the multipolar agenda. What are the advances in this subject, and what is the role of Venezuela and Russia in this new world? I would like to ask Lavrorv about your opinion regarding the declaration of the United States regarding the President of Brazil. I was told that he a lot of the propaganda of Russia and China regarding Ukraine, and also the meal targets beyond tourist subjects. Countries are stating companies, financials, national coins. If this system could be implemented in Venezuela beyond touristic system. Yes, in the first part of the questions in the multipolar world, I was saying in my first intervention that in 2000, September 7 in New York, Hugo Chavez and Vladimir Putin were met in New York, and from that day, there was set a coincidence within both presidents, and this reflects the love of those two countries, and it is the construction of the multipolar world to guarantee the balance of the world. After 22 years, we have seen that this intention of creating hegemonies from the belly power that some countries have and the economic domination have just created a chaos in the world. Venezuela and Russia Federation share the principle of equality and respect to the respects stated in the Charter of the United Nations. Today we see in the world a geopolitical movement, very important changes, very important, that not only to Latin America but to Asia. We see it in the East and in Europe. They're starting to emerge a new world, and this new world, I believe that the commitment is to help that there will be a world of balance, of respect, of autodetermination of the people, self-determination of the people, and a world of equality. And I believe that we are, this is what happening right now. Venezuela have a geopolitical position right now, and it's privileged because it's located in the midst of the Caribbean, in Latin America, in South America, as an important, it has a lot of energetic resources, and they are very important and necessary for the development of the world, such as Russia. We share that principle, and we have to guarantee the security of our countries, and our resources would be would be in the development of humanity, and this could only be achieved by the rules of that are stated in the Charter of the United Nations, that this is the firm position that we share in defense of the principle of the sovereignty and the self-determination of the people, of respect between the states. And this is the only way to guarantee that this new world that is beginning right now, and that we see that today this new world can advance and could establish as a way of improving in our human world. With Venezuela, I would like to add that we share a major group of states, and the democratization of international subjects are through the fulfillment of the Charter of the United Nations in its totality, and the United States and its allies. It's not by chance, but that in the market there are new terms of the order of the world based on rules. There are the rules of if there is a referendum in Crimea and so it declares its independence, and the Court of Justice says that it can be set, so they can do it. The representative of Great Britain were interrogated, and he said that there was a referendum that they chose, that the resident chose to form part of Great Britain. So these are principles that we should protect, and our main objective is the Charter of the United Nations should be fulfilled, and so that these principles are the principle of the self-determination and the right of autodetermination and territorial integrity, as of the Kiev regime say that they are going to remove Crimean and the Russian culture, and Zelensky, they made an award with and at the beginning of the conflict, we tried to negotiate, through the agreements. And Zelensky said that if you feel Russian, you have to go to the Russian territory. And those who said the words that enters in the Charter of the United Nations promoted by the Western countries. The Charter of the United Nations is talk about the repression of all these resolutions, and this requires the fulfillment of the agreements of Minsk but the Western countries, they don't want to do this. There are resolutions of the United Nations that the Western are going to achieve, especially the resolution of the ending of the period of decolonization, and the territory of the Great Britain should be released. Of course, the resolutions about the West are not done, and if there are people that talk in the Western, so we have to ask explanations about the subjects. And regarding the stance of Brazil, So they say that Brazil have made a mistake when supports Russia and China, and this is the questions about this declaration. Yes, the United States, they make statements and they cannot be judged. And I'm convinced that in the process, this growth and the process of the creation of order, of the multipolar order, should have positive results to most of the population, and if the Westerns are going to participate in it, it's a negative process that is not going to end immediately. It's a historic era that precedes the creation of the order, of the multipolar order. Journalist Dennis. We have the questions to the foreign ministers. The question is about international coins. The Venezuelan banks is going to be used in this process, and Russia was talking about our target meal and how it's going to work, and when the target is going to be made, is going to be used in Venezuela. We have discussed the subject about political subjects in our ministry to fulfill the agreements and to say the discussions through the next commission, and we cannot discuss the periods, the dates, the exact dates to achieve this objective to our cooperation. We have the Minister of Finances and the Central Bank are in charge of this, and throughout them, they are the ones that consider the subject of the interaction with the Bank of Venezuela and the use of the meal target. I would like to add something to his commentary. The technical equipments of Central Bank of Venezuela and Russia, the equipment of the meal platform are working to these areas, both to the exchange of financial and to the system where we free of the dollar as a regulator of the commercial transaction, as well as to allow the use of payment as the target meet. This is very well advanced in our discussions, in our high-level meetings, and soon we are going to have some news both from Russia and Venezuela. Thank you. So this is how we have end these meetings, these interviews.
And we finished to listen to the press conference between the Foreign Russian Affairs Serguey Lavrorv and his counterpart of the Venezuela, Yvan Gil. The Russian Foreign Ministry said that he will travel to the region with a concrete agenda aimed at increasing mutually beneficial cooperation between both countries in political, trade and economic, education, culture, humanitarian and other areas. We plan to focus the negotiation on strengthening international law of the modern world based on the UN Charter, they stressed. This is all the information. Now we continue expanding in next emissions. Stay with us.